Okay, maybe you haven't been watching LCS at all this summer or this year, or you're just like, they just lose too much, I don't want to, or, right, moved the schedule to a bad time for me. Well, guess what? It is now on weekends again for playoffs. I know it's not all on weekends. Sometimes there's a couple days on the other days, but you can watch it now. And you'd be doing me a big favor if you tuned in and watched on the weekends, because then I get to interview Riot later on, and I get to be like, wow, it looks like you have a little egg on your face because you said weekdays would be better. And look, whenever playoffs was on the weekends, it was way higher than the regular days. Anyway, just do me a favor, do that. And the way I'm going to help you do that is I've written notes on all the teams that are in playoffs. We're just going to speed run, catching you up on everything that you need to know about these teams so that you can care about them and you know what's the deal. So we're going to start with Dignitas. All right, remember Dignitas? They're a team that never really does a lot, I know. But the cool thing about them this split is they have Jensen and Santorin on them. It's been really cool to see those guys on this team, other than in spring when they sucked. Not just those two, but just generally the whole team sucked. But what's interesting is they brought in, for summer, a player named Rich, who was considered Faker of Heroes of the Storm, which is that Dead Blizzard game. And everybody was like, they're just doing this because the guy who runs the team used to be a Heroes of the Storm guy. But guess what? This guy's actually really, really good. In fact, he probably deserved to get in All-Pro, but because he's on Dig, he didn't. But he was doing so much for this team over the course of the split. We're going to see what he can do in playoffs. They're not looking so great at the end here. They started stronger in summer, but I still feel like they could surprise and knock somebody out in some sort of elimination match. We'll see. 100 Thieves, double lift, double lift, double lift. That's all I need to say. I know most of you that subscribe to this channel are double lift fans or a double lift hater, and you've got a reason to tune in if you're either of those, because he's 30 now. Yes, that's right. Double lift is 30s over the hill. It makes you feel old. It makes me feel really old. But I think that this team is pretty funny because he came back with Bjergsen for spring, and then Bjerg was like, psych, I'm out, I'm going to leave. And then what has happened this summer is it's just double lift doing as much as he can to carry this team that is not looking too hot. The biggest thing is that Closer, who's usually one of the best players in the league, has just been not great in the summer. But with Closer, the whole thing is that during playoffs, he suddenly becomes a really good player. So we'll see if he can do that this time, and if 100 Thieves can somehow snake their way in. By the way, I almost forgot to mention, we're just going to do a side tangent here. You actually have potentially 4 teams that can go to Worlds this year, because the 4th team goes and faces the 4th European team, and we're going to see which one gets to go to Worlds, which is kind of a fun, cool thing that they're doing. So maybe 100 Thieves will be that 4th team. I don't know, but double lift. That's all I need to say. Watch for double lift. TSM. This could be literally your last chance to watch TSM. And they've put together kind of a cute little reunion roster where they've got Hanser and Wild Turtle there. I don't know if they did it for the memes or not, but I think a lot of people did not expect this team to be as good as they have been in the summer. They've been mostly carried by a player named Insanity, who you might remember had a brief stint in the LCS under Immortals, but much like all Immortals players, we'll get to one later, he's playing a lot better now that he's not on Immortals. So good that he was only supposed to be a sub for this team. Well, they brought in an import player, and NA talent baby in the mid lane. He ended up actually keeping the spot because he's just better. He's just cracked. This guy's been doing a lot. He probably deserved to get All-Pro. In fact, I think he did. I voted for him. He deserved All-Pro. He didn't get it. But I think that TSM could be, again, like kind of a surprise in this. All the teams are kind of interesting. In fact, just listen to JoJo. He's going to tell you this.
I mean, Golden Guardians are definitely good. They have like good players in every role. But I think every team is like really inconsistent in my opinion. Like every single team, including us. Golden Guardians sometimes look really bad, same as C9. So honestly, whoever just plays better on the day will just win, because I don't think it's really a big gap since everyone's so inconsistent.
NRG. Guess what NRG is? Yes, they're CLG. I know. They both have G's at the end, and that's really what it is. No, if you weren't paying attention, Energy bought CLG. CLG died. A lot of CLG fans are salty about it, but you can still support the players by tuning in. The fascinating thing about this team is that they have that one little trope thing where they lose to all the bad teams and they beat all the good teams. But the cool thing about playoffs for NRG is there's a lot more good teams than there are bad teams. So if they can keep it going, if they can continue to rise to the challenge, they could end up doing pretty well. By the way, Palafox, we're going to just been talking about North American mids. We're going to keep talking about them. but he's been actually pretty good and has been doing a lot for this team. This split won like a player of the week or maybe multiple. I don't know. Team Liquid. Okay, this was originally supposed to be TLCK, basically the team that was running a full Korean-speaking roster. They did not find that much success in spring, which is funny because their whole thing that they said was like, we're going to work harder than everybody else. And it's like, well, apparently you were working harder and yet doing worse than a lot of other these teams. But in the summer, they came back with a different coaching staff or an altered coaching staff. They've been a lot better, but still were kind of struggling to be interesting until they brought a North American mid laner, baby. That's right. They broke the full Korean-speaking roster to bring in APA, who now apparently just like every now and then they speak English to him. Other than that, he just like does his thing and does well in the mid lane. And ever since he showed up, the team has been a lot better. So why are we importing mid laners? I don't know. Apparently it's all about North American talent. We'll see if Team Liquid can ride the APA wave into Worlds. Is that a good reference? I don't know. All right. Evil Geniuses. This team is fascinating to me. They were supposed to be terrible because during spring they had a pretty good roster. This was a similar roster to the one they won last year with an amazing jungler who had previously got MVP, and they told him to fuck off apparently because they don't have any money. At least that's the vibe that we get. They never said we don't have any money like Golden Guardians. They don't have the courage to tell people that they're poor. But they now basically kept only JoJo, who you may remember from last year. This dude is, you guessed it, North American talent. And he's the mid laner, and he probably will get MVP. It's either him or Blabber. We'll see. But he brought in these 4 other players from other teams and has just made all of them look good. People thought they were not going to be good. They were kind of like the rejects, the misfits, the losers. Breakfast Club for people that are old as me. They have just continued to be amazing. They were always top 3 throughout the split. Maybe they dropped down to 4th at one point in time, but like they've been really good. I think at one point in time they were up at first. I talked a lot about JoJo, but I really want to highlight my boy Revenge, who for a long time I thought was an elo hell in Immortals, and everybody's like, no, he's not that good. And look at the stat sheet from yesterday. Well, playoffs have already started. I'm a little late on this. But look at the stat sheet for him. This dude's crushing it. Golden Guardians. Okay, remember Golden Guardians, they're supposed to be bad. Maybe you didn't watch it all this year. They're good. They had this really cool kind of miracle run to make it to MSI and to the finals in spring. And then they just ran back that whole team again. Again, a team that people do not expect to do pretty well because when you look at the lineup. In fact, at the beginning of this year, whenever I heard they were bringing Stixay back, who had been like coaching for a while, and they were going to bring Huhi back, who had kind of a floundering career on 100 Thieves, I didn't think the team was going to do that great, especially because they'd had Licorice, who never seemed to be able to get the heights that he had back on C9. Well, something happened, and they are really good. And they've continued to be a top 2 team throughout the course of the split. We'll see. They beat Cloud9 once, even though they lost them in the finals in spring. So maybe they can do it again. I think they're kind of the underdog, right? A lot of people think there's a good chance they can make it to finals with C9. Again, we see a repeat, but people don't expect them to beat C9. But who knows? Maybe they can turn it around. Finally, we get to the big boy. That's right, Cloud9. This is probably the most popular team in the LCS now. They've just always been good for the most part, and they've continued to be really good this year. They won in spring. They ran back that full roster for summer, and they have just been really solid. They're kind of doing the Cloud9 thing that they always do, where they are near the top, but then they lose games that you don't expect them to because they're just kind of having fun. But Blabber will probably get MVP. Again, it's between him and JoJo. He's continuing to be a very solid member of this roster, and I just feel like we're going to see Cloud9 in the finals, and it's going to be a question of who gets there. But you never know. All sorts of stuff could happen. All right, so that's it for this video. Please tune in. The broadcast has actually been really cool. I think they made a ton of upgrades. Mostly I'm going to give a ton of credit to Mark Zimmerman for that, because I think they've given him the reins to just do bizarre and insane shit, but I know the rest of the producers and the rest of the talent have stepped up as well, and so it's been really fun to watch. So just do me a favor, tune in. I know you're like bitter and frustrated and they moved it to the weekdays. Well, tell them to fuck off by watching on the weekends, because whenever viewership is like twice as high on the weekends as it is on the weekdays, I can turn to those right executives and I can say, yeah, I think your data is bad. Anyway, watch. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Become a member. You can support the channel for $2.99. You get all sorts of cool things like getting to watch this video early and others like it. And it's a great way to support the video because this one doesn't have a sponsor because you guys haven't been watching and everything's going to hell. And I mean watching LCS. People still watch my videos. A lot of people watch my videos. They don't watch the LCS anymore. It's kind of funny. I see them in the comments. And maybe and that's why I made this video.